Okay guys, another video that I wanted to do that I get a ton of questions on is the work at home. What I'm going to be doing, things like that. So basically, I'll just start with an overview of why I had to go back to work. Basically what happened is, with everything going on with Nate and my husband, for like 3 months, over 3 months, was on short-term disability. He, lost like 40% of his pay. And really it's more than that because he always got overtime and everything like that. So we took a huge cut in pay. So with that happening, we went through our savings and everything. And so I made the decision to go back to work. I first went out and looked for, a regular quote-unquote job. And I was offered a position here that was... It would have worked. It was, a part-time night job and Saturdays, and it would have worked, but it really bothered me to leave Nate. I really didn't want to, I'm sure that's how everyone feels when they have to go back to work, and I just really wanted to look for something different. And so I did end up turning that job down. And I was bound and determined to find another way to make money. So, a legal way to make money. So basically, my background, just to give you an idea, is I've worked in a lot of call centers, done a lot of customer service type work, things like that. And, all different kinds of things, working with health insurance and auto insurance. And so... what I did is basically I just did a Google search of work from home call centers, and I'm not going to tell you specifically the company that I got a job with because there are some things that I really feel should not be broadcast out there. I don't want too much of my personal information, just for whatever reason. But what I will do is there's a bunch of places that you can do call center work from home, and it works a couple different ways depending on which company you go with. So what I'll do is I'll provide a link to some call center information or call center work at home opportunities, and you guys can kind of do the research and find what's best for you. But there are from the research I did, there are two different ways you can do the work from home call center work. And basically what it is, the job that I took is inbound calls, which means that people are calling me. I mean, I'm sure that there's plenty of sales and things like that where you call out to people. That's not something I'm interested in. I've never ever liked doing sales. I'm not a salesperson. So, again, you got to just kind of see what's best for you. But basically, I went with a company where I'm an employee of the company. So, because there are other opportunities where you can get a, I think it's like an LLC, which is a limited liability company, or even a corporation, I don't know. But I had looked into that before because the call center I worked at previously, at a regular job, they used agents from that. So I looked into that. But it's a higher startup cost because you have to register your corporation or whatever, and I didn't really look a lot into it because I knew it was not something I wanted to do. I think you can make more money doing that way, but what I wanted to basically do is try working from home in this type of job first, and then if I like it, maybe in the future branch out and do something where I can make a little bit more money. So basically what I did is I picked a company where I'm an employee of the company, so I get paychecks directly from them. It's not, because what I kind of was looking for is something where I could kind of pick my own hours, and that's not exactly what I'm going to be doing. I mean, you have to be a little bit flexible in what you want, to work from home. So basically, I have a regular schedule, which I talked to you guys a little bit about before, so that's something to consider as well. There are other opportunities of things you can do if you want to pick your own schedule. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But basically, I have a regular schedule. I log on through my regular computer. I call into basically to their system, which then routes the calls to me. And I don't want to go into too much detail about what I'm doing, but it's basic call center work. It's it's basic. Anybody that's worked in a call center or is for you call in. Everywhere's a call center. You call them for your credit card or for your telephone company or anything. I mean, it's basic call center work. So, I haven't actually started the actual job yet. I've started the training, and it seems to be going really good. And I think that it's going to be a really great opportunity for me. And I think that it provides me exactly what I needed. Even though I'm here in the house and I have to work, like on my 10-minute breaks, I can run up and see Nate. I can, eat dinner with my husband on my, dinner break versus him having to drag Nate out to see me or me coming home. I just think that it's exactly what I needed. The only bad thing is, and I mentioned it a little bit in my postpartum update, is that when you do, and I'm sure it's the same for everywhere, when you do call center work from home, they expect you to be presented just like you're in a regular job, regular building. So, you have to have absolute quiet. So, I already have an office set up, where I, paid bills from and had, all of our files and everything in here. But there's no door on it, as you can see. And I don't really want to put a door on the office because the office is really small and it'll make it way too cramped, I think. So, and a pocket door is not an option. I'm a huge fan of pocket doors, like on Nate's room. But the electricity runs through this wall right here, so I couldn't do it. So basically what my husband does is he goes upstairs with Nate when I go to work. And it's only for a few hours because they go to bed. I mean, Nate goes to bed at 9 o'clock, so it's, for just 5 hours or whatever. And, we have a TV in our bedroom, and we also have the room right outside of Nate's we're finishing off. And it's like a little living room up there. It's a small room, but that's, so it's not like they're really missing anything up there except for the kitchen. There's a bathroom and everything. So we're trying to make that work. So that's something to think about too, is you have to have a room, I would assume for most places, that, is dedicated to that, unless you're doing something that's not on the phone. You can do medical billing, which I think is advertised a lot. I think it's difficult to do that, though, and the only reason why I know about that is because I used to work in a call center for Medicare, that's for the elderly and disabled. And the problem with that, I think, is if you live next to a big city or something, it's probably a lot easier because you usually have to find your own doctors and things to do their billing. And around here, the doctors all go through the hospital, which the hospital employs their own coding and billing people. So, I mean, that's something to look into, but around here it's just not feasible. The other thing that I can talk a little bit about, just based on my experience, is if you want a little bit of flexible hours, is you can do, I think I mentioned before, I used to sell, even though I say I'm not a salesperson, this is the only time I've ever sold anything, is I used to sell Signature Home Styles, which is a company. It's like home interiors, like I sold home interiors a long, long time ago too. Like Party Light, it's all those kind of, home-based type things. And I did that for a while, and that is a lot more flexible. Like, you can set your own schedule, kind of. They really promote that. But, you can and you can't, because I think a lot of times then you're working the weekend. Which, I'm working the weekend on this, but at least it's set hours, and it's usually not Saturdays. I think with that, I ended up working a lot of Saturdays, and I want Saturdays to be our family time. Because that's a lot of times when, like, birthday parties are, and, graduations and things like that. The startup cost, I think, for that is a little bit more. The startup cost for the call center thing that I'm doing was virtually nothing. I had to buy a headset to use from home, and a headset to train with, and you needed a router. I didn't have a router, so we had to go buy that, but a lot of people have routers. So it wasn't nearly as much. But with something like Signature Home Styles or Party Light or Tupperware or something like that, you have to buy like a kit. And so there's a little bit more of an initial startup cost. And with that, I always found that, I'm real big on like decor. I love to decorate and I love to have nice things, pretty things. And I always found I was probably spending more money than I was even making, and it can be really time consuming because it's a sales job, so you have to try to recruit more people, and you have to, try to book more parties, and so all that takes time and effort, and some people are really good at sales. Paul's stepmom she does sales. She does furniture sales, and she's excellent at it. She could, I'm sure, sell anything to anyone. Hi, buddy. Hi. Mommy will be right there, okay? Okay. Nate's up. I don't know if you guys can see him. Say hi, buddy. Say hi. I just waked up from my nap. Yes, I did. Mommy will be right there, okay, buddy? You're turned all sideways. You are turned all sideways. Okay. What was I saying? So basically there are opportunities out there. I'm not saying it's anything you're going to get rich off of, and I definitely am not making the money from home that I would if I would go out and get a job. But I think it's kind of a trade-off. It's bringing in income, which is good. To me, any money is good money. But if I were to go get a job somewhere else, I would make probably, I don't know, a lot more than I'm making now. With that, though, in all honesty, like I said, I think it's a really good opportunity because I think the opportunity to make more money is there. I think that it's something, at least in the company that I'm going with, you start at the very bottom for the very bottom pay. But I think that there is a lot of opportunity for advancement. And I think that eventually, if it's something that I do have to continue, I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping things get better and, I can go back to being a stay-at-home mom. But I think this is the next best thing. And if I do have to continue that, I think eventually I'll make a lot more money. What else? If you guys have any questions, let me know. I mean, I'll try to answer the best. I mean, I'm by no means an expert, especially since I just started it. But I did do a little bit of research up front. And if you have any questions on, like, doing the home-based businesses, like the Signature Home Styles or Tupperware or Party Light, I can give a little bit of advice on that. Because I did that for, it was probably like a year. I want to say a year. And I thought about getting back into that, but I just, again, that was pulling me from home, and I didn't want it. That's exactly what I wanted to avoid. I wanted to be here at all costs. And it's, I feel kind of like I'm still a stay-at-home mom and just have like an activity to do each night, because he's here and I get to be with him and I get to give him a kiss goodnight, and, I get to, I feel like I'm not taken away from that. So, and eventually, if I do have to continue it, I plan on changing my schedule so that I can work mornings, like part-time. Right now I am working full-time because that was the position that was open, but I do hope to eventually get part-time mornings. And like I was saying in my update for Nate, even though Paul will be at work, we can have that nurse come in and she can watch him for a few hours in the morning while I do my work. I'll bring in extra money, and it'll be just like I'm a stay-at-home mom. So, I think that it was definitely the best option for us. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll do the best I can to answer it. Talk to you later. Bye.